My video for March the 8th, 2018 is entitled, "Truth is Truth, even if no one believes it. A lie is a lie, even if everyone believes it." As I've said in many of my 2,600 plus videos, I read the Bible through year after year since I was 12 or so, at least 20 plus times. How I missed the characterization of God in the Old Testament baffles me now that I see how deceptive it was. Like many so-called scriptures, there is a lot of allegory and very little, if any, actual history. These are very old myths, which is why I use a longer title than usual. Millions believe the myths to be based on historical evidence, yet scholars looking for evidence find none. The stories in the Bible have virtually no evidentiary and historical proof. Like most of us, I was sucked into the myths, thinking there was something real within the ancient texts. Of course, most of the moral principles have value, even if world leaders and the majority of the population do not follow them. The values are real, yet draped as they are in historical lies, they are obviously ignored. Will we ever know the real truth that will set us free? I struggle with that, as I know others do too. Yes, I was going to make a video about David Wilcock, and I may still next or in the future, but I wanted to get this one out because I had actually made note of this prior to my previous video, and I was going to include some comments on that saying in that video, but I forgot. And when the video was all over, I still had this note to myself that I had completely overlooked. Truth is truth, even if no one believes it. How true that is. You know, belief does not make something true or false, real or not real. It's just an opinion. And as I've said in other videos, it's always the winners, so to speak, or the controllers of the world that write the history. And perhaps there's been no greater deception than the Pharisaical deception put forth by the congregation of demons that, as Jesus called the Pharisees in the New Testament. He referred to them as doing the lusts of their father, which he referred to as Lucifer. Now, some are even saying that, I don't know, Lucifer and Satan are two different entities, some say. Now, is that true? I don't know. To me, they're the same thing. But one says, or some say, that one is a male and one is a female. I don't even know if that's relevant, because I really have always seen God as genderless, or making up everything. So God would be both masculine and feminine, not either or, but both and. And I think at our essence, we are also at the spiritual level genderless. Only in the bodily form do we take on a gender. And of course, there are exceptions to that. Even in the modern world, you see people that it's difficult to tell what gender they are. They seem to be both and, not either or. And they have to make a decision. Do you want to be a male or a female? So anyway, folks, the point is this. We follow cunningly devised tales. And there are teachers that say the whole thing in all of the so-called sacred scriptures are allegories. They are stories that make a point, but they are not supposed to be historical facts. In fact, the story of Jesus is not an original story with what we call the New Testament. It too is said to be a story that has repeated with slight variation in various cultures over many generations, dating well before the time of supposedly of Jesus Christ. And a lot of it is about the Son of God rising from the dead, and that happens every day as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, at least with the current orientation of Earth in relation to the star called the sun. And there's a whole lot of spiritual people exploring, as well as scientific people exploring. And while the scientists have come to the thing that everything is an illusion, that's can be easily used as a cop-out to keep us from dealing with the issues that are put on our plate. We have to deal with 3D reality or 4D reality, like it or not. We cannot just merely escape to some 5D or higher dimension. That's not the way it works. And everything is being written now. Everything that is happening always in the now, regardless of how the past was presented and regardless of how the future is predicted. Each of us has to deal with our own situation, our own lives, right here, today, right now. We have to make a decision what we're going to do and how we're going to respond. Now, one of the people that I meet here in the apartments where I live was trying to convince me that I needed to go to a doctor to have my blood pressure checked. Well, I have a blood pressure monitor. In fact, here it is, right here. Okay, that's my blood pressure monitor. And I've been checking my blood pressure since he mentioned that to me regularly. And yesterday I did 2 readings, one on each arm, and they were 129 over 80 and 130 over 80 with a heart rate of 61 and 62. So that's normal, folks. That's relatively normal. As I've said in other ones, it might be occasionally slightly moderate. And there was one reading that I had some days ago now that was actually low blood pressure, which again does not make sense. That was the lower number was 69. And of course, 80 is supposed to be the norm. Folks, what I'm trying to get at is that we have to be living right now, today. And truth is what we are experiencing, but even more than what we are experiencing, because we all spin things a certain way. We all place a certain focus in what we think, and even in what we experience. We place a certain focus and we label things. Somehow we have to get even beyond that. And I'm trusting that that the lies will be exposed and the truth will come out, because I know this. Truth will set us free. I believe that's a foundational reality. And only truth will set us free. As long as we're believing in myths, fairy tales, and other lies, we cannot be free, because we are not seeing the picture of how we fit into the greater scheme of things as it actually is. We're only dealing with our own interpretation of how we feel about it. And I have to accept that that's true of me as well as it's true of everybody else. And I'm, again, trusting that we will actually be able to rise above all of the deception and all of the crimes against humanity that we as human beings have apparently been facing for millennia. Thank you, folks, again for listening, and namaste.